Hello everyone, my name is Wing. In this presentation, I will talk about information technology audit frameworks and standards. Before I move on, let me tell you a little bit about my topics that I'm going to discuss in this presentation. First, I will talk about the objectives of information systems. Second, I will give a brief review about the type of information system that usually exists in an organization. And also, I will mention the components of an information systems. And after that, I will touch a little bit about information system maturity, which is important to be identified by organizations so that they can move on to the next level or probably to develop another new systems. And of course, I will also explain a little bit about information systems risk that usually faced by organizations. And finally, in the main topic, I will talk about control and framework for the information systems. Let's move on. First, I will explain about the objectives of information systems. Usually, an organization or companies implements its information systems to achieve specific goals, probably one or two goals, but it also possible that they would like to gain another objectives. The most important objectives should be gaining a competitive advantage. It is an advantage that another companies or competitors do not have yet. So by implementing information systems, a company probably can deliver more enjoyable user experience or easier transactions or easier payments and so on, so that the customers would like to do business with the companies more and more. Another possibilities will be new ways of doing business. For example, if the company usually sells their product or services manually, when they implement information systems, they can take advantage of computer application or internet application or probably mobile application, which make it easier for customers to have deal business with the organizations. And secondly, most organizations or companies probably implement information systems to reach effectiveness or efficiency in doing their business. In the past, probably they use a lot paperwork, but now they use digital data so that data and information can run smoothly among points within the organization, from one department to the other department. While in the past, employees, managements have to use papers to deliver data or information. Now, by using computers and information technology, those kind of paperwork will be replaced by a new systems, which is faster, more reliable, and more efficient. Third, this is another important objectives, is that by implementing information systems, companies can reach their goals easily or probably faster than by using manual systems. So before implementing an information systems, an organization must have a clear objective. For example, they want to spread the product through new markets, and if they do it manually or by using old ways of doing marketing, for example, it will be difficult for the company to reach their customers. now by using information technology, they can even reach another markets that is far away from its physical location, and even cross the countries. And another objectives will be the support to decision maker. This is not only to management of the organization or the companies, but also for the customers or prospect customers, or probably suppliers, analysts, and any other parties who are interested to do business with the company. So these are some objectives of the company's information systems. Probably organizations or companies can add more objectives. It depends on their business operations, their activities, and probably their vision and mission. But mostly these are very common in organizations or companies. How do companies or organizations install or implement their information systems? It is also based on the goals or objectives of the companies. In this part, I will show you the different types of information systems based on the decision that will be made by the decision makers, starting from the employees, middle management, top management, and probably the other parties. I will start from the first level of information system, which is transaction processing systems. As its name implies, this kind of system process, records, and capture daily data transaction or daily business, either in a profit-seeking organization or in a non-profit seeking organization. For example, ticketing or point of sales or student registration. Those are daily activities within a particular organization. So if a company has a lot of transactions which deals with a lot of data, they must implement information system based on its own activities. These are the example of transaction processing systems. After the company or organization collect a lot of data, they have to be able to analyze the data and information so that any parties can make proper decision. To support that decision-making process, the organizations need to have management information system. This is a type of information systems that its function is to analyze, to provide information to not only to management but also to employees, starting from the low-level employees until to the top management. Basically, information that is provided by the management information systems are there in the system. Mostly, the decision maker have to obtain the information by themselves. So the system basically do not provide information, but make it available for the decision maker to grab those information systems. So this type of information system based on transaction processing systems that already been implemented by the organization. So if the transaction processing systems collect data and information and also provide standard information to related parties, the management information system can provide various types of information systems. It could be a summary of transaction, and those information can be drilled down to more detailed information by the decision maker, especially for the management. And the next level of information system based on the decision making process is the decision support systems. This kind of systems helps the decision makers to make decision. This system does not provide information as their main objectives, but it is more guide the decision maker to make decision. But if the decision maker would like to explore or to know more about why this decision must be made, they can gather the information to make more analyze. For example, in a company, the manager of accounts receivable, their function is to collect accounts receivable for customers, and each customers probably have some invoices, and those invoices have different due dates. In manual systems, the accounts receivable clerk must memorize or must take a look at the records that they already collect, and then they have to decide whether this particular customers must be contacted to pay their bills. But by using information systems, the account receivable clerk probably just log into the system in the morning when he or she come into the office. They log into the system, and the system will tell the clerk that this particular invoices will be due next week, for example. And then the system will tell this particular clerk to remind the customers that they have some billings that still due in the company and will be due in a particular days, for example. So this is an example of how system can suggest the decision maker to make proper decision. And in the next level, which is the topmost level in this classification, is expert systems, or some writers also call it as artificial intelligence. And this is debatable whether expert system and artificial intelligence are different things, or probably they share the same characteristics. But in this time, I just assume that expert system or artificial intelligence is about the same. This system replaces the human being in the decision-making process, so they can just make decision after the management decide this particular decision can be replaced by the system. For example, in a bank, we have auto debit facilities. Each month, our bank account will be subtracted by several amounts based on the electricity bills, for example, phone bills, for example, or any other payments that must be done regularly, usually monthly. The system will do repeatedly. So this is a kind of expert systems. But of course, this is a very easy example. In the complex decision-making process, it could be another decision. For example, whether or not a company will use a specific method for its depreciation expense. The system can tell whether this type of depreciation will give more profit or more efficient expense for the companies. So this is example of different types of information systems which usually exist in the companies. And what are the components of an information systems? So far, probably we can identify that the most salient component of information systems are databases. And databases can be classified into three different types. In this presentation, I will classify databases into internal database, external database, and analytical database. Internal database is a database that consists of daily transaction data that is recorded by the company, so that more or various information will be provided by the system based on this internal data. This is for daily routine transaction. And for the external database, mostly are used by the companies to provide more information for the decision making process or the management. For example, they want to analyze whether the company has achieved its objectives or not in the sales target. But if they rely only in the internal data, probably the data do not tell anything. But if they compare with the external data, then the company can analyze and can figure out whether this data in the company has positive trends or negative trends. Another example will be the exchange rate for the foreign currencies, for example, so that the company cannot provide information only based on its own currency, but they can compare it to the global business world if they use the foreign exchange rate. So this exchange rate are the example of the external database. It is not owned by the companies, but it is available externally. Another information will be the inflation rate, the interest rate, and the economic growth within specific industries, and so on. So the companies must pay attention to the external data. And the third types of database is the assumption data. This is not real data. This is not yet existed, but still it is very important for the decision makers to analyze the decision that they have to make in the near future. For example, they have to assume how many sales that can be achieved by the companies within the next month or probably the next year, so that the companies can synchronize whether the facility should be expanded or just leave it what they have today, and so on. So this is the database. The database is not only the internal data, but also the external and assumption data. The other components, to make it brief, is computers and those kind of things like servers, routers, network hubs, communication hardware, and so on. And of course, those hardwares need software or application. It could be web-based application or dedicated application or probably mobile application or probably any other devices application. Basically, this is another components of computer systems. And third is communication facilities, not only software but also some process or some procedures that make it possible for the company or organization to provide or gather information to or from other parties, especially for the customers, suppliers, for the governments, for example, to tax office and so on. Another components will be documents. This type of document is not only paper, but now it includes digital form, menus, comments, helps, and so on. Basically, it is a media to communicate information between parties that related to the organization. And next is procedures, which is a series of steps that must be followed by elements within the organization and companies to do specific activities. For example, to do sales process, online sales process. They have specific procedures. For the credit sales, they have specific procedures. To return their sales, they already have specific procedures. So in companies, there are a lot of procedures that must be followed by anybody related to this particular process. And then another important component is controls. Controls is something that must be implemented by the companies to make sure that the objective of the information system that I already mentioned in the early of this presentation, there are several objectives. So the companies or the organization have to make sure that these objectives and those processes will be achieved, even though there are a lot of disturbances and probably some unexpected conditions. And lastly, the components of information systems are its users, which is of course vary from organization to organization. But mostly the first users is the employees or the data operator, and then management, and then suppliers, and then customers, and so on. Again, it depends on the organizations and its activities, which probably have various users of information system. Okay, those are the components of information systems, and the companies have to make sure that these components can work together so that the information systems can run smoothly without any disturbance, and of course the companies then can obtain or reach its goals. Let's talk about the next topics, which is the information system maturity. What do I mean with this maturity is that how far an information system is used by a particular organizations. There are 5 levels of maturity based on CMMI models or capabilities of maturity and capabilities maturity model of integration or information systems. According to CMMI, the level of information system is like this. First is information. The information systems is used by the companies or organization just to provide information, especially one-way communication. There are no chances for other parties to give comments or replies and so on. So if we move to another level, which is the next level, is communication. Information system can be used by organization or companies to facilitate communication among parties. Probably users can ask questions and the management or the employees in a company will answer those questions. Or probably users ask to download a file and the system let the users to download a file. And probably in the other example is that they can fulfill an order manually, even though they use the system, but the form is there and they choose menu and so on. And then the employees will overview those orders and then they will answer. So this second level of information system cannot fulfill transactions promptly. In the next level, which is in the third level, which is transaction, that means that any parties related in the business by organization can finish their business by using the systems. For example, if the customers order something to the companies, they just fill out some forms and then they click some menus to transfer the payment and then they submit the orders, and automatically the system will tell the employees to process the orders, and then probably they will send the orders to the customers, and customers do not have to report that they already ordered or they already make some payments and so on. They just do the transaction by the systems. And in the fourth level of maturity is collaboration. The collaboration. Collaboration is that the system can connect with the other systems, so that if the decision maker want to make decisions, they don't have to go to the other department or another parties. For example, the 911 systems. Anyone who need help can make calls to 911. But probably the help that they need is not only the medical assistant, but also probably their animal has an accident, or probably the electricity facility in their home have problems, so that the 911 system will integrate this information to related parties, and the help will comes on the way based on the requirements. And lastly, the topmost level is the transformation. The transformation is information systems that can replace the old-fashioned procedures. For example, the transaction that usually done by the paperwork, by the discussion among the customers and the employees, now can be done by the customers through online system. And yet the payment probably can be done by using different types of bank accounts, or even another way of payments which is now available in our environment, like electronic wallet, digital money, virtual accounts, and so on, by using blockchain. And these are the information systems maturity. And all of those systems that I already explained from the beginning of this presentation until a few seconds ago face some risks that probably will disturb the information system, so that at maximum the information system cannot work properly, or even the organization will be suffer if their information system does not work. For example, the airline that implement online ticketing system. What will be happening if the internet break down for a several period of time? Users cannot orders and they cannot provide service to its customer. So the airline company will not be able to make transactions. If the internet connections will be down for the whole days, then the whole days there will be no transactions. And of course there will be no income by the airline companies. And this is an example of risk that is faced by organizations or companies. So to make sure that the systems will run smoothly, the companies have to implement a control or a kind of system that protects the information systems from any risk that will be make the organization suffer. This kind of control systems fortunately already available out there. This these control systems could be in the form of frameworks or standards. What are those differences between frameworks and standards? Frameworks basically is rules that company can follow, but they don't have to follow all the components that already put there. While standards is a series of requirements that must be followed by organizations or companies. So standards require more regulation, even though the regulation is not set up only by the government, but any other institutions, for example, the professional institutions. So, but I would not make those differentiates in this presentation. I will include both frameworks and standards in this presentation. The first frameworks that an organization or a company must implement probably is the internal control framework that was set up by COSO. COSO is a professional organization that consists of 5 organizations, and their frameworks was published in 1993, and it is displayed in the screen. I will talk in detail in another videos. Basically, this internal control framework can be followed by organization by taking a look at the 5 components, from control environment up to the monitoring activities. After almost decades, while the business world has changes rapidly, there are a lot of frauds that has been done by so many companies. COSO issued another framework which is called Enterprise Risk Management. Basically, this is a more detailed framework compared to the internal control framework, especially in the risk components. Now, COSO make it more detailed up to 4 components, which you can take a look at the model that is shown here. Again, I will also talk about this framework in another video. Other framework that can be used by organizations probably is the COBIT, Control Objective for Business and Related Information Technology. And today, ISACA, the organization that issued COBIT, has been just released a new version of COBIT, which is COBIT 2019. Compared to the other version of COBIT, the newest COBIT has more coverage, yet more flexible components that can be implemented within an organization. So the companies can adjust their control system with COBIT so that they can protect their information systems in a better assurance. Again, I will also talk COBIT in the other videos. Another framework that also available is Information Technology Infrastructure Library, or ITIL. This is a little bit more focused to infrastructure within the information systems. Compared to COSO, which is very wide and very broad framework, and COBIT is a little bit narrower compared to COSO, and then ITIL is even more focused only in the infrastructure of the IT within the organization. And actually, there are a lot of other frameworks like ISO, like project management frameworks, Six Sigma, and also BS or any other frameworks. Yeah. There are so many IT audit frameworks out there that can be used by the companies to protect their information systems and also can do IT audit. And that is for now for the discussion about IT audit frameworks within the companies. We will see in another videos in more detailed organization about those frameworks. Thank you and see you. Yeah. Sambot.